Hey folks, I'm Alex Dowd.
And I'm Katie Rife.
Today we're talking about Craig Zobel's controversial, delayed The Hunt.
Welcome to Film Club.
Okay, so The Hunt. This is a movie that was supposed to come out last fall
Yep.
in September.
Yep.
And what happened was the culture kind of got wind of what it was about. And it is a film about sort of liberal elites hunting people from red states, basically.
The most dangerous game updated for the Fox News era.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So they caught wind of it. There were a lot of sort of preemptive protests on the part of the MAGA crowd.
Yeah, President Trump got involved, I believe,
he
tweeting
did.
about how what a detestable film it was.
And honestly, the irony of that, and I don't actually think you need to have even seen the movie to catch wind of this, one might say.
You need to have seen a movie.
I mean, the irony of it is that the movie is, at least in a superficial way, on the side of the characters who are being hunted.
Yes.
It's not a movie that's celebrating liberal elites hunting conservatives.
No.
The bad guys in this film are, in fact, the liberal elites.
Well, generally in a film, when someone is being hunted, whether it's by a masked killer or by liberal elites, generally the people doing the hunting are the bad guys. That's just kind of a rule in film. I don't think I've ever seen a film that really celebrated just mowing people down with a machine gun.
Totally. So the release was canceled quite controversially in September, but now it is coming out.
Hey, it's back.
Yep, it's back in theaters, opening wide this week, and beyond that, they are now using that controversy as a selling point.
Yes,
which,
they are.
If you had asked me in September what was going to happen with this, I would have said this is what is going to happen with this. That this will eventually come out, and they will use the entire. I might end up making more money now because of the controversy.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know what? That's show business a little bit. There's a little bit of ballyhoo, a little bit of P.T. Barnum still in films. So, I don't blame them for using the controversy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's something that, horror filmmakers have been doing for years. And when we were going into the screening today, I did see a poster for this film, and it said the film they don't want you to see.
Right, of course.
Which is, kind of a time-honored tactic.
Yeah.
For
well, but
like
it
this.
also makes you wonder if this was ever, when they made the decision to cancel it, if it was ever any doubt that they were eventually going to resurrect it. You sort of create this buzz around it with the controversy,
Yeah.
But the film's politics, ultimately, I think are a little muddled. I think you said to me as we were walking out of this that this was like the most violent episode of South Park you had ever seen.
Yes, I stand by that. This film has very South Park politics, which is that both liberals and conservatives are stupid and self-serving, and the only smart people, which is implied that the audience member is one of these smart people, the only smart people are people who choose to opt out of it entirely.
Yeah, exactly. Rise above the fray. You're not getting into this mudslinging contest.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Sort of thing. I will say that the film goes harder on sort of self-righteous liberals than it goes on the conservatives.
Yeah, I would say that. I wonder if the film's had some re-edits since it was planned to be originally released, and maybe if they deliberately made it a little bit lighter on the conservatives.
That's interesting, because I think I had heard that it's a little shorter than it was, and I wonder if that would be very cowardly of them to take out. But so I don't know. We don't know. But I will say that the film's attitudes about the conservative characters are mostly that they're just kind of paranoid dolts.
Yeah, there's only one conservative character who is explicitly kind of a quote-unquote bad guy, and he goes on and on about crisis actors and, just really paranoid conspiracy theory stuff, which, to be fair, does not represent the mainstream of most right-wingers' beliefs even,
The premise of the film, and I will say this is one of the smarter things about the movie, is that it takes a little while for the movie to reveal exactly what's going on. There are a group of wealthy, liberal Americans.
Yeah, and it's established early on that these are, snobby, one could call them East Coast elites. Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia plays one of the hunters, and there's a scene early on where he talks about 100-year-old champagne, which is implying very early on that it's sort of a champagne versus beer kind of movie.
Totally.
Yeah.
And they're all easily offended, and they all are self-righteous about their politics, and I think we're supposed to find it very funny, the sort of the disparity between their deep bleeding heart concern about social issues and the fact that they are murdering people in cold blood.
Perfectly willing to kill people for sport. Yeah.
Totally. The conservative characters, the people who are being hunted, are sort of people throughout the United States who have made disparaging remarks about various people online.
Yeah, and something that's interesting is you don't see until later on, like, specifically what their thing is.
Yeah.
You know, like, they get killed off early on, and it's sort of a trick that the movie plays with your sympathy towards the characters because they're introduced completely anonymously. And the movie does come out swinging, so to speak. There's so early on, after they arrive at the manor, they call it, where they hunt people for sport, and it's the thing in the film that this is a popular right-wing conspiracy theory that this place even exists, but it's real. So when they arrive at the manor, there's a scene early on that really reminded me a lot of Battle Royale, where they all wake up and they go out to the middle of a field, and there's a giant crate in there that has a pig in it, and also a whole bunch of guns.
Yeah.
And I thought that the film was just going to be Battle Royale with South Park jokes in it.
Sure.
And to be fair, it did go some different places than that.
Well, it does one smart thing, I would say, in that opening stretch, which is it sort of plays a little bit of a psycho game with who exactly we're going to be following in this film. That's all I'll say. There are certain actors who are recognizable, and we don't entirely know if they're the protagonist or not.
It's a little bit sick, but I thought that was the funniest part of the movie. I thought it was way funnier than the political humor that the protagonist kept changing because people kept getting their heads blown apart. I thought that was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I like that too. As a satire, it's pretty glib. I don't think that it has anything especially interesting to say about the culture war.
No, I don't think so at all.
It's a lot of both sidesism.
A lot of both sidesism and a lot of just kind of like really sort of surface Twitter jabs, you know? Like it's basically at the level of people fighting on Twitter, calling each other, you know, snowflakes and deplorables.
Yes, they use that jargon as a punchline many times in this film. I think we're supposed to just sort of automatically, the minute we hear somebody call someone a snowflake, we're supposed to guffaw in recognition or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of guffaw and recognition kind of stuff. Like there's an Ava DuVernay joke. So goes, oh, Ava DuVernay liked my tweet.
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
Leave Ava alone.
It's softball stuff.
Yeah,
I think,
it's
for the most
totally
part.
softball humor.
Yeah,
totally
even though the film is very violent.
Pretty gory
There's
too.
some gnarly gore in it.
Yeah.
Again, that to me felt a little glib.
It's supposed to be funny.
It
is. And it does move along at a pretty good clip.
I do think the filmmaking is fairly intelligent. It's directed by Craig Zobel, who made Compliance. He also made Z for Zachariah. Compliance was actually rather famously controversial as well.
I have some complicated feelings about Compliance.
Yeah, that's a touchy film, one might say, and that the reaction to that was charged.
Was it worth it, is my question about We'll look it up what the film's about.
But Zobel has some clear craft, and I think he crafts the mayhem in this film pretty well. I think it's pretty intelligently acted, too.
Yeah.
I think most of the actors are pretty good. I actually thought Betty Gilpin is excellent, I think, sort of playing the embodiment of this idea you were talking about, though, of somebody who's sort of, I'm not going to buy into either side of this ideological
Above the fray, yes.
Above the fray, yeah.
And also playing what's become a bit of a stock character in these sort of, you know, violent action, marginally horror thrillers, whatever genre box you want to put this type of film in, which is the woman who, for reasons that are not explained for quite a while, is a fucking killing machine. She is a complete killing machine in the You're Next mold where, you know, she's supposed to be the victim and then just flips it immediately.
Yeah. Well, so how do you think this works as a thriller?
I think it works pretty well as a genre film, actually, you know, as sort of an action horror hybrid where you have, you know, pretty good action direction and it moves quickly and it's easy to follow and good action sequences, funny gore at times. But I think as a political statement, it's a little bit dopey. It's a little bit surface, you know.
I would call it
politics.
opportunistic, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's opportunistic. I think that it's looking at the intense amount of heated conversation in this country and divisiveness, and saying we can kind of clown on that, but not in a way that's, I think, particularly thoughtful. I actually thought a little bit watching this film of the Purge films, which are also by Blumhouse. Blumhouse is the production company that responsible for both this and the Purge films. But those films, I think, are smarter. All right, folks, thanks so much for watching today. That's all the time we have. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to like and subscribe. We'll be back soon talking about a very different film, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always.
See you then.
Thanks.